Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Custom Carving and Epoxy UK. And if it's your first time here, welcome. And if you're a regular viewer, welcome as well. So this video is going to be all about bubble removal, because most of us that work with resin, one of the biggest frustrations is getting tiny little air bubbles in your pieces when they're done. You've just spent 2 or 3 hours on a piece, you then demold it the next day and you've got micro air bubbles in it. So most of you know, if you've been following my content, I typically use one of these Resiners machines, bubble removal machines, and have really good results with that. But they've upgraded it, and there is now a new model, which is the Airless Pro, which I've been fortunate enough that they've sent it me. So this is going to be an unboxing and a quick test. And also on top of that, I finally nailed the bloom process. So I don't know if you saw that in my last video, but I'm going to try and do a bloom with a bit of a difference as well whilst testing this out. So if that's what you're interested in, you're in the right place, and let's get straight to it. So here we go guys. Now the way that I do unboxings is you see it as I see it. So I don't like to look inside the box before I do a video. First of all, the packaging looks pretty cool. And it even says on the side, the main reason why you're going to want it. They retail at the minute in the UK at about £145 because there's a promotion on at the minute. But on top of that, I've also got a discount code for you, which is ccukresin, which will get you an extra 15% off. So if it works, if it's good, by all means go and get yourself one. And if not, then don't. But I'm going to test it. I'm also going to do a bit of a comparison compared to the original that I've got here. Just to see the difference. So let's get straight to it. Again, if it's your first time to the channel as well, make sure you like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference. So let's open the box. So well packaged by the looks of things. It's even got sort of velvet lined plastic material, so you can tell it's a quality piece. Comes with an instruction manual. And I think the great thing about this, the upgrade is it's gone from, I think this old model only went up to 95 kps, and this one goes up to 99, and I believe it's going to be a bigger model, so you should be able to fit more in. But let's get straight into it and have a look. If you're like me, you never actually read the instructions, and you can get this with a US or a UK plug. So if you're in the UK, obviously you're going to want the UK one. If you're in the US, get the US one. It comes with some free cups, so you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you get 10 free plastic cups. And I use those a lot actually, just for measuring the resin and mixing it, because I find them reasonably accurate. So let's have a look inside the box. I'm guessing it's going to be pretty straightforward assembly, like the last one. So again, comes in 2 parts and your plug, and that's pretty much what you get in the box. So let's unmold those. Sorry, I'm having a few issues with the tripod at the moment. But as you can see, it's just literally, you get the plug, the cups, the instructions, and the 2 parts. So first thing I'm going to do is just get this out. And right away, I can see it's quite a good, strong, sturdy plastic. And then you get this silicone sort of ring on the bottom to stop it hopefully vibrating as much. And right away I can see, compared to the old one, it's bigger. So in fact I can fit that whole one inside there. So it's definitely bigger, which is great, especially for bigger projects. And then you get this top part. And it seems very similar in design to the old model. You've got a little push-in valve here that you need to make sure is in for when you're mixing the resin. And it works like a vacuum, so it will literally take all of those bubbles out. When it's finished, you basically unplug that and it releases all of that pressure. But yeah, good big size actually. I just want to test something. I want to see if you can fit 3 of these in here, because I know I couldn't in the last one. I could only fit 2 in there. But if I can fit 3 in, or even 4, that'll make a huge difference to the amount of resin I can do at once. I know some people as well, 4's pushing it, but you can fit 3 in, which for me means that you should be able to do up to about 700 mil or 24 ounces of resin in one go, which should be big enough for most projects, and if not, you just do more than one lot. But so far this feels a lot heavier and weightier as well than this one, so I don't know if there's a different motor in it. I presume there is, by the fact that it gets more air out than the last one. But yeah, I actually prefer this design as well. It looks more modern, and I think it goes better with my living room, which is great because I've had to move my space indoors. So just gonna plug it in now and see what different options we get, and then we're gonna move over to the workshop and give it a test. But just to reiterate, look at that design. I'm absolutely loving that. The gold and the black, it just goes really well together. And you can see footprint wise, it's not a huge amount of difference to the old model, but I think looks wise, it looks a lot neater, a lot tidier, and a lot more modern. And you can see you can fit 3 cups in there easily of resin. So I've just plugged it in to have a look, and I'm pretty confident it's gonna be the same as the last model. So switching it on, digital, which is nice. Automatically goes on a 5-minute cycle. Noise wise, I actually think it's a bit quieter, but I'm gonna plug the other one in a minute, just have a look. But noise wise, not noisy at all. And I'm just looking inside, and what I'm not getting with this one, what I did get with the old model, is too much vibration. Because the old one, the cups used to vibrate quite a lot when they're in there, and obviously these are just empty cups at the minute, so it'll be very different when there's resin in there. But I just want to see how quickly it gets up to that maximum pressure as well, which I think was 99. I'm going to guess at a minute. So just over a minute. And this is where this last one, maximum went up to was 95. But as you can see, this one is now going all the way up to 99, which hopefully means it's going to get even more bubbles out. So there we go, we're at maximum now. The AI button changes it to 10 minutes or 15 minutes if you want it, 5, 10 or 15 minutes. Now 15 is quite a long time, but if you want to be ultra certain that you're getting all the bubbles out, why not? And what I'm liking about this one is the smaller model, the old airless version, was great, I found, for low and medium viscosity resins. This one is meant to be powerful enough for thick viscosity resins and also silicones. So if you're making your own molds, it could be a solution for that. There's a pause button if you want to pause it, and you can just restart it again. So I don't know if you get an urgent phone call coming through, you can just pause it and then you haven't got any of the noise. You've got the AI and then you've got the power function. But all in, I'm really liking the look of this, and I actually think the heavier lid on this will actually help with that pressure. And one thing I like about this, because I know Just Resin have also brought out a new airless machine, theirs is very strange because you have to lift the whole lid up and then move it to one side, where there's obviously a bigger risk of spilling your resin everywhere. With the Resiners one, sorry, I just need to release the air. So you probably hear a hiss in a second. So there we go, that's that air released. The pressure should now be released and you can lift it up. But the great thing about the Resiners one, is it's a lot harder to do that because you've got to go in from overhead and lift your cups out. And I actually think that's possibly, sorry Let's Resin, but I think that could be a design flaw where if you've got to lift it like this, for me, you've got a risk of going like that and knocking your resin all over the place. I think if it's like this, I actually think as a design concept, and I haven't tested the Let's Resin one, so I wouldn't be able to say anything, but as a design concept at the minute, I prefer this because I've got to lift it in and it's much harder to actually spill my resin everywhere if I'm going to knock things over. So initially, really happy with that. Just to test, actually, I'm going to test if the power plug will work on both or if it's a different size. So this is the old model. I'm guessing it'll be the same adapter. It is. And as you can see, this one for me, the old version, and don't get me wrong, it's been great for me. It's a little bit louder. You've still got an AI mode, but that only goes up to 9 minutes, not 15 minutes. It's a little bit smaller as well. But you'll see in a minute, the maximum the old model goes up to is 95 kps. Now, I don't know how much difference that actually makes until we test it, but I'm going to test it in a second. But you'll see this one will stop at 95, I believe. But so far, really, I prefer the new look. And I'm all about looks. Things have to aesthetically look nice as well as being functional. And actually, if you were going to get one of these, if you use my discount code of ccuk, you can get the upgraded model for pretty much the same price. So we know they're not cheap, but actually since I've started using them, I get a lot less bubbles in my pieces. There you go, that stops at 95, that's as far as that goes. And then again, it's the same. You release the silicone at the back and it lets the air out. So pretty much the same function. If you're wondering if the power bank works with both, yes it does. But yeah, I'm liking the look of this. Let's get over to the station. Let's get some resin in it, see how crystal clear, hopefully it's gonna get it. And then we'll move on to the project. Now the project idea I've had is obviously, we did this bloom in the last video, which came out perfectly, finally. And I wanna make sure that A, I'm not gonna get any bubbles around the side, but instead of doing a bloom, Halloween is approaching. And I just wondered if we could do a form of a blooming pumpkin. I don't know if it's gonna work. I don't know what it will look like at the end, but I'm gonna try. So we will have a look and see if it works right now. So let's get over to the station. So here we are guys, back at the workstation. Always remember, safety first, get those gloves, get that respirator on. And all I've done is I've poured, I'm using the same resin, so it's the Let's Resin 1:1, and I poured 1.5 ounces of the hardener and 1.5 ounces of the resin in. On another note, the pumps that come with that resin actually work really well. So well done Let's Resin, compared to the other ones that I had with the Jiao Chun one. They're working really well. So really happy with those. And I'm not going to bore you. Essentially what I'm going to be doing is mixing the resin and the hardener together for about 4 or 5 minutes, just so it's thoroughly mixed. Then we're going to put it in the resiners machine and see what happens. But no matter how you mix it, you're always going to get some bubbles in there. And that is the idea of these bubble removal machines. It is to get rid of those bubbles after you've mixed it. And just remember to scrape around the sides and the base of your cup whenever you're mixing resin. Otherwise you will get parts of the resin that haven't fully mixed, which is not what you want. And what you're looking for is you want it to go from this sort of streaky consistency to a crystal clear look. So I'm going to speed this up now and then we'll come back once it's mixed. And I am deliberately stirring this a little bit more vigorously than I normally would, just to actually get more air bubbles in it, which is a bit crazy, but for the purposes of this video, I think I want as many of these small little bubbles in there as possible so that we can really put this machine to the test. As you can see, really vigorous at the minute, and that is full of bubbles. So I think it will give it a really good test. And obviously the last thing I want in my bloom, or in this case hopefully a pumpkin style of bloom, is gonna be bubbles. There we go, and that has been mixed thoroughly for 4 or 5 minutes, and I'm going to give you a bit of a close-up as to how many bubbles are in there, but let's just say there's an awful lot more than normally when I would mix my resin. So just going to wipe off the stick so that I can hopefully reuse it. And then I'm going to give you guys a bit of a close-up. So as you can see, that is mixed, but it is absolutely full of bubbles. I don't know if you can see it properly. So I thought it'd be a great test of this Resiners machine. So now I'm just going to put it into the machine in the center. Great thing is, it doesn't take up much more of a footprint than the old one, but you can fit 3 times as much in there. So that's, well, not 3 times as much, but probably about an extra third in there. Then I'm just putting the top on like that. And you're going to have to excuse me through this experiment because I'm going to have to use my hand rather than my overhead stand. But I'm just going to plug it in. So the camera work may be a little bit shoddy. Again, make sure that this tab at the back is fully closed. And then I'm going to plug it in. And I think I'm just going to do 5 minutes first and see what happens. And there we go. That's all I've had to do is push the power on and it begins. So let's hope that this will get rid of all of those bubbles in there. I'll just try and get you a bit of a better view actually. And this is just the 5-minute cycle that I've put it on. And remember, if you want one of these, they retail for £145 in the UK, but if you put in the discount code ccukresin, you're going to get 15% off. And already I can see those bubbles coming up to the surface. Don't forget guys as well, if you're liking the content, if you're liking the experiments, if you're liking us testing this equipment out, please like and subscribe to the channel. Costs you nothing, takes 2 seconds, but it means an awful lot to the channel. And put something in comments as well. But look at those bubbles forming already, and I knew there'd be a lot because I deliberately mixed it really vigorously to get as many bubbles in there as possible. Also, just remember, never fill your cups all the way to the top, because when the bubbles start rising like this, it will probably overflow. I'd probably say on an 8-ounce cup, you don't want to put more than 6 ounces in at a time. But I have used these as well with the big silicone cups as well, and I've done up to 500 ml in the old one. So again, I would imagine with this one I could probably do up to 750 ml. But just look at all those bubbles that it's removing. And it's really weird when you first get one of these because you think it's actually adding bubbles, but it's not. It is actually removing them. And this Let's Resin, the 1-to-1 resin, I would say it's more of a medium viscosity, so it's not thick, it's not thin. And you can just start to see at the bottom where it's starting to separate the bubbles from the clear resin. And it's only been 2 minutes so far. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that this is working so far. So we're only halfway through the cycle. Looks like it's about halfway through the resin, so that's a good sign. And there's 2 minutes left, and look at that at the bottom already. It's already crystal clear. and now it's just getting rid of those extra bubbles on the top. These can really change the quality of your resin work, and reduce the amount of bubbles that you get in your work overall. I think if I stopped it now, it would probably just degas those last few, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let it finish the 5-minute cycle. Be interested to see if the finished alarm is any different to the sound of the last one as well. There we go, and there's the alarm. So hopefully you can see there how clear that is now. There's still a few bubbles in there, so I may put it through another cycle. I just want to see what happens when I remove the air by unplugging the little silicone tab at the back. See if that gets any more out. And I think it has. There is no bubbles in that now. So I could put it through again, but I don't see the point. That is as crystal clear resin as you are gonna get. So I'm just gonna get it out now, and then we can have a closer look. And that was just the 5-minute cycle, and you saw how vigorously I mixed that resin up. So you would never probably do that normally. I just wanted to do it as a test of this machine. And for me, it seems to have more power than the old model, because the old model I'd often find I'd have to put the resin through at least twice to get the same effect. And this, if I'm being completely honest, is the clearest that I can see. So I'm just going to take it out and just look at this. Now that is what you call crystal clear resin. That is like water. And that's what you want. Apologies for seeing my feet there, but there we go. But that is crystal clear. Really happy with that. And yeah, resiners, thank you very much. I do recommend it, you know. £145, but as I said, if you want 15% off, just put in the discount code CCUK and get yourself one. So far, looks great. And now onto the project. So if you remember from the last bloom video that I did, it was very much about temperature. At the minute, this is at around about 30 degrees. I'm going to wait for that to get all the way up to 40 before I do anything. But what I've decided to do is I'm going to try and do a pumpkin. I don't know if it's going to work, a pumpkin style of bloom with Halloween coming up. So rather than just being straight orange, and I have got an orange alcohol ink, I want it to have a bit of a fire effect. So I decided to use this lemon yellow and magenta colours, and hopefully that will give us some orange, some red, and a little bit of yellow. And then I've also got this emerald green for sort of the top. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know. I haven't even figured out yet how I'm going to sort of stir it or put the white in, because obviously I'm still going to need the white to get that bloom effect, to make it look like a pumpkin. But we will get there, I'm sure. And it'll be interesting to see what we come out with and whether it blooms. You know, I don't want it to be a bloom, but I do still want it to bloom to give us those effects. So I'm going to leave this now for probably 20 minutes and then come back and check the temperature. Again, I'm just getting my little pot ready for the white. And all I'm going to be using for the white is the Let's Resin Ocean White, probably 2 drops in there. And I am going to use a piping bag, because I do want to pipe in a design and just see what happens. You know, it's small piping bags. I get them off Amazon or eBay, whichever's cheaper, and they cost literally pennies. Make sure you get the small size though. You don't need a large one, because it is just for your white. And what I'm going to do is just try and pipe a design on of a pumpkin. First of all, try and get the inks on in the right way, and see if it still kind of blooms but gives us an overall pumpkin look. I don't know. Let me know if you think it's going to work in comments. But we'll come back in about 20 minutes, test the temperature of this crystal clear resin again, and then go from there. And we're back, and it's been about 25 minutes. Temperature's at 39.1 at the top, 36 at the bottom, so it's getting there, it's almost there now. So what I decided to do is I haven't got any other colours of iridescent powder apart from this blue one that I've used a few times. So I am going to try and put a tiniest bit of this mica powder mix that I've done mixing bronze, gold and papaya in there as well, with a little touch of this green chameleon, just to see what it does in the bloom, and hopefully it won't make it blob if I only put a tiny bit in. But again, I want to make it look a bit different, and the idea here is to try and make it look like a pumpkin, like you're looking down on it. So the stalk in the middle, which will be green, and then sort of an orange round sort of bloom, so it's almost a pumpkin inspired bloom. But whether it'll work or not, I don't know, we'll see. Got my piping bag ready as well, just to basically give me a bit more control over it. But I'm going to try pretty much the same technique, so going around in the circles and then drawing in the bloom as such. But I'm not going to go back outwards this time with the petals, because I actually want it to look a little bit rounded. So we'll see what it comes out like. If it comes out like a pumpkin inspired bloom, then I'm happy with that. You know, I don't think it's going to look exactly like a pumpkin, but it's just with it being Halloween, I thought it'd be a fun experiment to do. And we're at 39.6, so getting ever closer. Make sure you clean your molds as well. And what I've also done is just pre-sprayed that one with some silicone release spray. Basically, it keeps your molds shinier for longer and makes them last longer. This mold I'm using is actually the deep mold coaster mold from Let's Resin. Again, I've really liked some of the effects that I've got with different coasters, and the most recent one where I actually got the bloom right finally after numerous attempts is this one here, which was absolutely stunning. So if I get anything that looks even remotely like that in the pumpkin colours, I'll be happy. So, but it will be an interesting test just to see what we get. And that's one of the things I love about working with resin. You never know what you're going to get until the next day at demold. So you can see we're at 40.2 on top. At the bottom it's still 30.2, but that is good enough for me, I think, at this point. I think where I was going wrong before was only waiting till it got to about 33 degrees centigrade before I was pouring, which meant the base of it was probably about 20 degrees, so it wasn't warm enough to actually bloom. So all I'm going to do now is pour in enough into this pot for my white, ready to mix that, and then pour the rest into the coaster. And that is crystal clear resin. So that bubble removal machine, for me, it is an upgrade on the last one, and I really like it, to be honest. So I can see me using that on every project. So now I'm just pouring it out, and I think I might even have a little bit spare here because I've done 3 ounces rather than 2.5, but we will see. I think that's the depth I'm looking for. Now all I'm going to do is, you're still going to get these tiny bubbles that cling around the edges, so just go around that with your silicone tool, and if you can see any on the bottom, bring them up to the surface so that you can get them with your lighter. There's one there that's just being a little bit fiddly, because again, the worst thing for me is if you have a successful bloom or a successful effect and then you've got little micro bubbles, and even though there was virtually none in that resin, as you saw, you will always get the odd little one when you're pouring. So just getting the tops, and that should get rid of any of those. In fact, there's still one there, so I just want to get that one up off the surface, and they have got to be pretty near to the surface or it won't pop them. And 1 or 2 doesn't matter, but you just don't want any big ones, because if you get a big bubble, it makes such a difference in the overall piece. So again, just getting those last few, and I think that's good enough for me. Now remember, if you're going to do that, do it before you drop your alcohol inks, because when you drop them, you can't use your torch or your flame, otherwise it will just set on fire. So I want the center to be green, so I'm going to do 1 drop, I think, in the center. Okay, maybe 2. because the other inks are going to push this back. And then I'm going to go around with this lemon yellow. As I say, I could have used the orange, but I just wanted to see again if I can get a different kind of effect, almost a flame effect, rather than just using the standard orange. So you see when you put the yellow in, it pushes that center back in, so that will stay in the center. Now I'm just wondering whether to use this magenta or whether to use a different red, because that magenta for me is probably going to come out a bit pink. As you can see, I have got an orange, but I want a deepish red, which is always a bit of a pain. Just going through, there we go, so I've got a red there, which is going to be quite a dark one. So I'm hoping by adding it, it's going to create, when I add it to this sort of yellow, it's going to create an orange effect. If it doesn't, then we're going to have a red bloom. So that for me is almost too red now. So I am actually going to go in and add some orange. Probably should have done that to start with, but hey. And just adding that again around that green, so it pushes it in a little bit further, because I don't want the green to be that visible, I just want it in the center. And then I'm just going to go in around anywhere where there's still a little bit of space with that yellow again, and hopefully we'll get some different blends of orange. It's quite a lot of ink I've actually added in there, but we'll see. And then just because I don't want it looking too precise, I'm going to give it a swirl, just with the inks in there, so it mixes those colours up nicely. And we'll see what we come out with. Either way, I think we'll get a pretty cool effect. Got to start getting a move on now, because obviously it's heating up all of the time. And I am going to just put another drop of green in the center, because my center seems to have moved. Just one drop there. And I think that will do. Yeah, reasonably happy with that. Probably more red than I want, but I don't know what it will look like on the underside, so we'll see. So I'm going to mix up the white. I'm just going to add 2 drops of this ocean white pigment from Let's Resin. And I don't think, based on the last project, it will need any more than that. So 1, 2, pretty much. And then I'm going to add the tiniest bit of this goldy mica powder that we made. I don't want too much in there, because again, it's going to make it heavier. And I don't want anything. And then the tiniest bit of this green chameleon powder as well, but literally that's all I'm putting in, tiniest little drop, because I don't want it to become any heavier than it has to be, but I also want a bit of sparkle in that bloom if I can. So mixing this up, and let me know if you think this is going to work, or what kind of look we're going to get. And I'm deliberately going to be leaving the center of this, so starting a little bit further out than I normally do with a bloom, and then just putting a dot of this white in there to hopefully create that stalk. But we will see. This is all an experiment, and it could all go horribly wrong, as you've probably seen in the past. So just going to pour it into my piping bag, And there will be too much here, I know that. But any extra I can always put into a spare mold and see what we get. So that is the white. And all I do is just give the bag a bit of a twist, and then as I'm holding it, that can stay behind. And then I'm going to chop the tiniest bit off the end, which will allow me to hopefully have some control over the flow. And look, you can already see it's pulling in, so those colours are pulling in. So what I might do, just because I want this to not pull in too much, is just add some more orange around that edge and leave it another second. Just to try and make sure I've got a lot of colour in there. And I do want it to have an orangey look, so that's why I've just added more of that orange. And I'm going to leave that to settle for a second, and then we're going to pipe. And you always want to leave it a minute before you pipe your bloom, because your inks, as they move, could affect the bloom effect. So you just want to leave it for a minute so that everything is fully settled before you actually pour that white on. But we'll see. Do you think it's going to work? That is the question. Got my silicone tool ready to put the bloom in. And then I think we're about there, about ready. So I'm just going to snip the tiniest end off this. I'm making sure I've got a couple of spare molds nearby as well, to hopefully, if I get any spare, make something cool. So literally all I'm going to do here is snip off the tiniest bit, because I want these to be quite small and thin. And I'm going to start a little bit further out than usual. In fact, I could probably do with snipping a little bit more off this, but we'll see how we go. Because don't forget, it has got that mica in as well, so I don't want to risk it being too heavy either and blobbing. I'm just gonna give it another quick swirl, and I think that for me looks good. Get rid of that. And now I'm going to go with the standard bloom pattern actually, but just bring them in. I'm not going to do the extra sauce. I'm going to start at 12 o'clock and bring them in. Then 6 o'clock and bring it in. Nine o'clock and bring it in. 3 o'clock and bring it in. And I've just remembered I've forgotten about the stem, so in the center there I am just going to put one blob, hopefully, which will hopefully create a bit of a stamen. We will see. So now I'm just going to split the difference on these. And then that's it. So pretty much going to leave it now and see what happens. Hopefully it's going to all close in nicely towards that center. Again, you always want to make sure your surface is level when you're doing it, otherwise your bloom will shift. But what I am going to do is, because I've got some spare white, and I might even have a little bit of clear here, so I'm going to put some alcohol ink straight into this teddy mold. And I might see if I can get one of these big seahorses as well. I don't know if I've done enough resin, but we'll soon find out. So that was the yellow. Let's have some red in here as well. And then just because I've got green out as well, let's have a bit of green. Again, not a clue what this is going to look like, but there's only one way to find out, and that is to try it. Helps if you actually get it in the mold rather than around the mold. And then I'm going to go with the teddy bear first, and I have got a tiny bit of clear left as well, so I just want to make sure I get some of this white in both molds. Because it should create hopefully a pretty cool effect. So that's that. I'm just pushing it back down. And now to get some in this big seahorse. Oh, there's plenty in there. So I'm just gonna keep on doing this and then hopefully fill it up with the clear that I've got left. And those blooms already look like they're starting to close, so hopefully this project will be a success. What it will look like, I don't know until we're done. But I really like this seahorse mold at the minute, and this teddy one. And just hope I've got enough resin here with my leftovers. So I know I've got a tiny bit of clear left as well, which I can always use. But some of my best projects actually come from these leftovers. So again, never waste your resin, you know. It's always cool to experiment, especially if you've got some left over from something like a bloom. Don't let it go to waste. And I think we will just have enough, touch wood, to do one of these big seahorses and the teddy. Hopefully. And that is pretty much all of the white, but as I say, I have got a tiny bit of this clear left. In fact, let me just squeeze whatever I can out, because if I can get away without using the clear, I actually think we'll get a better effect. Yeah, I think it's going to need a tiny bit of that clear just to fill it all the way up to the top. And this was an effect I only found out in the last bloom, which was actually just putting the inks directly into the mold and then adding the rest of your white bloom paste over the top. And I'm going to try and add just a little touch more to that centre there, and hopefully get that stalk. But again, this is just an idea, a concept. Never tried it before, so if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But at least we've tried. And that is pretty much the last of the white. But I'm pretty confident I've got a tiny bit of this clear left to fill it with, if it wants to come out. There we go. So a tiny bit of clear. Interesting to see if this creates a different effect as well, adding the clear after the white and the inks. Have I got enough to just top up this seahorse? Yeah, there should be more than enough there. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this seahorse looks like as well, because I'm loving that pattern already. And I don't think I can fit any more in. I think we are about there, and that's already having a really cool effect. So hopefully we will have a cool bloom. We won't know until the morning. And that's it now. I'm just going to leave it. I'm probably going to come back in an hour's time though, because I do want to put a black background on this. But I'm not going to do it the traditional way. I'm just going to put a layer of black alcohol ink on, just to cover up the edges, because I think the centre will be quite dark. And it would just be cool to see if it makes it really pop or not. And also the depth I've got on this, I know I quite like the depth that I've already got, so I don't want to add any more resin to it. So I'm just going to add some alcohol ink in about an hour's time. So we'll come back and see that, but I'll give you a bit of a close-up as to what it looks like at the moment. So this is your teddy. This is the seahorse, looking really cool. And then this is going to be the pumpkin themed bloom, hopefully. So let me know what you think in comments if it's going to work. As I say, I'm going to come back in an hour and just put a layer of alcohol ink on the back of that, and then we'll demold tomorrow. Hey guys, and we are back, and it is time for the demold, and I'm excited for this one. So we will start off with the teddy bear. And again, that's come out really cool actually, a bit of a marbling effect, so really happy with him. And all that was that spear white with a few drops of the alcohol inks. But looking at how red he is, it makes me worry about whether I've got a pumpkin effect or not in this coaster, but we will see. So that is the teddy. I think I'm getting a bit of a problem with these teddies. I'm getting too many of them, if that's such a thing, but they're definitely multiplying. And then the next one is the seahorse, and I'm looking forward to this because I think with that colour technique, the marbling, it could look really cool. So always remember with this mould, if you get it, just be careful around the tail, because if anywhere's going to snap, it is likely to be that tail or the nose. So just be extra careful when you demold. And let's have a look and see what it's turned out like. So, oh wow. That is very natural actually, because I used to keep seahorses a few years ago. And I absolutely love that effect for the seahorse. So I'll definitely be doing a few more of those, I think. So that's been a success. But has the Halloween inspired coaster been a success? As you can see, there's now a black back. So all I did is an hour and a half after I'd finished everything, I just came back with some alcohol ink because I didn't want to increase the depth of the coaster. But let's see what it's turned out like. I'm loving the depth, so that's a good start. And have we got any blobs, and has it bloomed? That is the question. So here we go. Wow. That is absolutely stunning. And the only blob we got actually is where I did that stem right in the center, so by adding that extra dot on top. But I absolutely love those colors, and you can just see on the tips as well where the mica powders come through. and really made a difference to that. So I don't suppose you would call it a pumpkin, but would I call it a successful Halloween inspired bloom? 100%. I think that's one of the nicest blooms I've had, and it's great that it hasn't blobbed, except for that stalk, because it shows that now I've got my temperatures right with the resin. Hopefully I can do a lot more of these in different designs, but look at that. That is absolutely stunning. So I hope you've enjoyed the content. Don't forget, if you want to get yourself one of those Resiners bubble removal machines, go on the website, use the discount code CCUK, and you'll get yourself 15% off. And yeah, really happy with this for another bloom. So I think we finally mastered them. But let me know what you think in comments, and I'll see you on the next one.